Rokurokubi, the long-neck yokai of Japan during the Edo period. There was a tale of a beautiful girl with a long neck, known as Rokurokubi, who would often lurk in the shadows of the night to eavesdrop on things she wasn't supposed to hear. And hello again, it's me, Game Nerd. The main character in our urban legends segment today will be Rokurokubi, a terrifying ghost but actually quite harmless, at least in Japan. If you're curious why I say that, then stay tuned for today's video. But before we begin, I hope you can give me a thumbs up, share, hit the subscribe button, and the notification bell to support the MG Horror Studio channel. And remember to stick around till the end because I'll also mention a few other variations. Now, let's get started. No one is sure when this term originated, but according to many records, it began to appear during the Muromachi period when the Ashikaga clan was still in power, and it gradually became famous during the Edo period due to the explosion of ghost stories, making it densely present in literary works and discussions at that time. There are many famous stories about Rokurokubi that you can find on the internet, and one of the most notable is perhaps the story of the monk Kairyu. Legend has it that in ancient times, under the daimyo clan, there was a samurai with extraordinary martial arts skills that no one could rival. But a sudden disaster struck, leading the daimyo clan to the brink of extinction. With the lord gone and the house no more, that samurai decided to retire, taking the religious name Kairyu, and embarking on his pilgrimage across Japan. One day, while Kairyu was preparing to spend the night in a forest on a mountain in Yamanashi province, a peasant suddenly appeared, offering to take Kairyu to his family's house for a safe overnight stay. Kairyu agreed without suspicion, but as night fell, he realized that this house was the den of a group of Rokurokubi. Taking advantage of his inattention, the Rokurokubi detached their heads from their bodies and flew off, causing mischief everywhere. To punish them, the monks secretly hid their bodies and fled. The heads of the Rokurokubi quickly found and pursued Kairyu, and they engaged in a fierce battle, ultimately won by the monk. However, before dying, one of the Rokurokubi attached its head to Kairyu's hand, making it impossible for him to remove it no matter how hard he tried. Unable to do anything about it, the monk carried that head with him as a memorable mark of his strange encounter, continuing his wandering journey. Another famous Rokurokubi story from the Edo period is about a wealthy young lady with an unusual long neck, yet a young man fell in love with her and decided to marry her. On their wedding night, while the groom was fast asleep, the neck of the young lady began to elongate and twist into numerous curves, serpentining through the air. The young man woke up upon hearing the noise. Seeing the apparition of his wife, he screamed loudly and then fainted. The scream woke the young lady up, and she returned to normal. The next day, the young man recounted this incident to his wife and her parents, then asked for a divorce. From that moment on, rumors about the young lady continued to spread everywhere. Until one day, a doctor named Yamaguchi came and proposed to her, promising to cure her condition. It's unclear how the doctor did it, but since they got married, the young lady's illness gradually disappeared, and they lived happily ever after. Of course, there are many other folk stories about Rokurokubi, but I won't mention them here to avoid keeping you waiting. However, have you noticed why I chose these two stories instead of any others to tell you? And that's right, it's all because I want to borrow those two stories to tell you about the classification system of Rokurokubi. Unlike Hanako-san and Kukusake Ana, which have only one type with various versions, Rokurokubi has been divided into two main types since ancient times: Rokurokubi with long necks and Nikekubi with detachable heads. In terms of literary appearances, it is believed that Nikekubi emerged earlier than Rokurokubi. They are described as having a human-like body, even extremely beautiful, but when night falls, their heads will detach and fly around to seek their prey. According to recorded documents, Nikekubi are particularly fond of threatening and sucking the blood of others. They do not have any fixed target. As long as they find someone appealing, they will attack. These creatures are believed to live in groups, usually consisting of 5 individuals who hunt together at night. After feeding and becoming drunk, their heads will automatically return to their bodies. It is believed that if their bodies remain separated for too long, Nkekibi will become exhausted and die, so it is rumored that hiding their bodies will effectively eliminate them. Additionally, there are many hypotheses suggesting that Nkekibi originated from a kind of monster called Haidoban or flying heads from China, which also has the ability to detach its head at night. Interestingly, the story of Haidoban from China and Nkekibi or Rokurokubi from Japan almost overlap with each other, except that, according to common descriptions, Nkekibi move by floating in the air, while Haidoban have large ears like bats' wings, allowing them to fly by flapping their ears. Unlike Nkekibi, Rokurokubi, believed to have emerged later, is considered much more benign. When night falls, their heads will roam around by elongating their necks endlessly, but they usually stay within a fixed range instead of moving far away like Nkekibi. The reason I say Rokurokubi is gentler than its older sibling is because there are very few, if any, records of this group attacking humans. They typically just fly around to intimidate others or simply eavesdrop on their secrets and then spread them indiscriminately. It's said that because of their long necks, these creatures often coil them into a spring-like shape, resembling the potter's wheel, Rokuro, hence the name Rokurokubi to distinguish them from the Nkekibi. But besides their appearance, these two species also differ in that Nkekibi are aware of themselves as monsters and actively detach their heads at night to seek food, while Rokurokubi always think of themselves as normal humans. When the heads of Rokurokubi elongate at night, they are not aware or in control of their actions, acting solely on their instinctual curiosity, and when they wake up the next morning, they will have no memory of what happened the previous night, believing what they saw was just a dream. Although Rokurokubi and Nkekibi differ in nature, because the paintings at that time were drawn in a much simpler style than today, the neck of Rokurokubi is often depicted as a small thread connecting the head and body. It's because of this that over time, the image of Rokurokubi gradually replaced that of Nkekibi and became increasingly well known. Whether Nkekibi or Rokurokubi, during the day they both take the form of ordinary humans, making them extremely difficult to identify. So, how can you tell if someone is a Rokurokubi? There are 2 commonly shared methods. The first is to wait until nightfall when the Rokurokubi is asleep, then you will see its true appearance. Of course, this method is not very safe because if the person turns out to be a Nkekibi instead of a Rokurokubi, you might not survive through the night. Therefore, we have the second method, which is to look at the neck of the person you suspect. If you see 3 scar marks running vertically along their neck, then that person is likely a Rokurokubi, as those scars are evidence of the head frequently elongating the neck at night. Another sign is if you see a long, thin, red scar-like thread on the person's neck, it could very well be a Nkekibi. This is also why people in the old days used to caution each other, saying, "A girl with a pink thread wrapped around her neck should not be taken as a wife," because they believed that women with such signs were Rokurokubi disguised as humans, and they would murder their husbands when night falls. Some others explained that such girls were the embodiment of Rokurokubi, with a cunning nature, many secrets, or prone to gossip. Marrying them would easily lead to internal conflicts and ultimately, the ruin of the family. But if you accidentally encounter a Nkekibi or Rokurokubi at night, you still have a way to escape from them. First, remember that they fly very fast, so trying to run and hoping they won't catch up is foolish and unnecessary. The easiest way to defeat them is to confront them directly. Use any weapon you have to fight and destroy their heads. Once the head stops moving, it means you have won. Of course, in the case where Rokurokubi turns out to be a Nkekibi, the situation will be a bit more challenging because these creatures are more aggressive and can spew saliva to paralyze humans. The most common method when facing a Nkekibi is to hide its body and wait until dawn. The Nkekibi will automatically disappear forever. Or, of course, you can confront them directly if you want, but remember that these creatures are cunning, usually traveling in groups, so I don't think engaging in a one-on-one fight with them is a wise choice. By now, you might be wondering if there are male Rokurokubi. Because from the beginning until now, I've only mentioned female Rokurokubi. Well, the truth is, yes, there are male Rokurokubi, and there are stories about them, such as the one about the monk Kiryu that I just told you. However, they are not as common as female Rokurokubi. The reason for this phenomenon, I'm not sure, but it could be due to the belief in ancient times that excessively beautiful women were often transformed by demons. Certainly, since it's called folklore, whether Rokurokubi truly exists or not is always a big question. From a scientific perspective, many believe that the Rokurokubi that people saw in the past didn't actually exist because the ability to elongate the neck arbitrarily is illogical and cannot be explained from a normal anatomical standpoint. Scientists believe that those referred to as Rokurokubi simply had longer than average necks, and the idea of their necks being able to stretch as described in folk tales is exaggerated by human imagination. And having someone with an unusually long neck does exist. They suffer from a rare condition called Marfan syndrome, caused by genetic disorders of connective tissues. Explaining the detailed pathological mechanisms can be quite complicated, so you can simply understand that the connective tissues in the body of people with this syndrome are not synthesized normally, leading to them having a rather peculiar appearance and the functioning of organs in the body being different from ours. Currently, the world recognizes more than 30 million different symptoms related to this syndrome, but the most easily recognizable is their tall, slender frame and longer than normal fingers, with some having a longer developed neck, while others do not. There have been many cases recorded worldwide of individuals with unusually long necks suffering from this syndrome, the most famous being Tichenkova, a girl living in Nikolaev, Ukraine, known as the girl with the longest neck in the world. Looking at her picture, you can see that Tichenkova's neck is much longer than normal due to the condition, yet she is proud of her appearance and has a life surrounded by loved ones. If we were to place this scenario in the past, when humans explained natural phenomena through a supernatural lens, then someone like Tichenkova might have been called a demon and could have been understood as such. Of course, that's not the only case. The boy Fu Ankui in China was also known as the giraffe boy, due to his unusually long neck. While regular people typically have 7 cervical vertebrae, Kwai had up to 10, making his neck appear longer and subjecting him to teasing at school. Moreover, these extra vertebrae pressing on the cervical nerves caused Kui to encounter many difficulties in walking, so he decided to undergo surgery to reduce the size of his neck, under the sponsorship of a charity organization in Beijing. However, after the surgery, Kwai faced numerous issues with other body parts. It was only then that doctors discovered he had Marfan syndrome, making treatment extremely complicated and costly, especially given Kui's family circumstances. Therefore, the charity decided to support the boy, but up to the present moment, Kui's life remains unclear. Not stopping at the symptoms of a rare medical condition, in Chiang Mai, Thailand, there is an ethnic group known for their long necks. They are the Kayan people, a small subset of the Karenni ethnic group in Myanmar, who have the tradition of wearing rings around the necks of girls as young as 5 or 7 years old. The number of rings increases over time and stops when they reach 25 years old. Prolonged wearing of these neck rings causes the shoulders of the Kayan to slump downward, elongating their cervical vertebrae, resulting in necks twice as long as those of ordinary people. It is believed that the Kayan adopted this practice to protect their necks from snake bites, while others suggest that Kayan girls intentionally do this to appear less attractive and avoid ancient human trafficking practices. Another interesting aspect is that, for Kayan women, the neck is considered a sensitive area that no one, including their husbands, is allowed to look at. Over time, the practice of wearing neck rings has become a tradition and a unique beauty feature for women in this community. From the above information, we can somewhat conclude that Rokurokubi is not actually a supernatural creature but rather an exaggerated perception by ancient people of individuals with excessively long necks due to Marfan syndrome or their own personal aesthetic preferences. In reality, there is nothing mysterious about it. Another interesting explanation is that people who see Rokurokubi may actually be suffering from a condition called Alice in Wonderland syndrome, which causes them to experience body and other people's bodies elongating abnormally. In Japan, there is another intriguing explanation. It involves the story of a prostitute who, due to illness, had a day of overexertion and attempted to stretch her neck to blow out a candle. Her shadow on the door appeared like a long-necked woman licking lamp oil, giving rise to the legend of Rokurokubi. This story has also led to another interesting variant in Japan where this long-necked female demon has a penchant for licking lamp oil. Different from Kukusake Anna or Hanako, Rokurokubi in popular culture is often portrayed as a humorous and playful yokai. In Japan, there is even a day dedicated to them, which is June 6th, because the pronunciation is similar, but obviously, this is just a playful joke and not a special holiday. Another interesting aspect is that Rokurokubi is seen as a trick used by performers on stage since ancient times. They would often place a headless doll dressed in a kimono sitting upright in front of a curtain. The doll's neck would be connected to a female performer sitting behind the curtain, and every time the performer stood up or sat down, the fake neck would extend, creating the illusion that she was actually a Rokurokubi. Rokurokubi is not only famous in Japan but also in other countries. As mentioned earlier, in Vietnam, Ma Lai is considered a variation of Rokurokubi. If you're not familiar, Ma Lai is the spirit of a relatively famous woman in Southeast Asian cultures, especially among the Khmer people, the Thai, and ethnic groups in northwestern Vietnam. It is often described as the head of a woman connected to the trachea and internal organs, often flying out to find food at night. Their food often includes human flesh or decaying corpses. There was a time when the story of Ma Lai became famous in the central highlands of Vietnam, causing public panic, but it turned out to be nothing but unfounded rumors. Unfortunately, most of the cases labeled Ma Lai in our country were due to superstitious delusions. These cases all shared a common trait: suspicion of an ordinary person being a Ma Lai, followed by violent actions to protect the community. But whether Ma Lai truly exists is unknown, which is why today I want to analyze the story of Rokurokubi from a scientific perspective. But anyway, let's get back to today's main topic. Because of the humorous and whimsical nature of this creature, Rokurokubi often appears in manga and anime as a guest character or as a comedic rather than a terrifying element. However, it cannot be denied that the romantic stories involving Rokurokubi look quite peculiar. Only the Japanese can truly appreciate this taste, and after a while, well, it's kind of adorable. In games, Rokurokubi is also anime-ized in various ways. For example, in the mobile game Chaos Academy, Rokurokubi appears as a cute and gentle girl, always wearing a white scarf around her neck regardless of the season, and this scarf even has the ability to transform into a physical form to assist Rokurokubi in her daily activities. In Nioh, Rokurokubi appears as a horrifying monster with a long neck, possessing two forms, human and yokai. In human form, Rokurokubi moves agilely like a samurai and can attack you with any weapon it wields. When it has only half its health remaining or when shot in the head, this yokai transforms into its yokai form and attacks you with its elongated neck. The best way to deal with Rokurokubi in the game is to attack its head, the most vulnerable part of its body. In the mobile game Tower of Saviors, Rokurokubi is depicted as an extremely beautiful and elegant girl wearing a kimono, and she is one of the characters you can possess in the game. This yokai also appears in a side mission of Ghostwire Tokyo with a relatively gigantic form and not very friendly demeanor. It can be seen that due to its popularity, Rokurokubi appears in many different forms in various games, some terrifying and some adorable. Most mobile gacha games will depict Rokurokubi in a cute form to lure money from players, while on PC, we can see this yokai becoming more powerful and uglier exponentially, so players don't feel too guilty about slaying it. But regardless, Rokurokubi remains nothing more than a mythical creature existing in legends, stemming from the exaggerated imagination of humans. Seeking spirituality to add more joy to life is fine, but stay vigilant before spiritual beliefs turn into fanaticism. And that's the final word for today's video. Let me know in the comments below which legend you'd like me to cover next. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you found this video enjoyable, and don't miss out on our weekly uploads. Now, I'm MG Horror Studio. Thank you for being here.